Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this evening session on MIAD 803, where we are going to look at foreign policy analysis. Foreign policy analysis. One thing with this course is it's not about cramming, but it's about understanding. Because we are all familiar with most of us are familiar with decision-making process, either of work or from this person, Joy, either from our place of work or from our house. So there's a decision-making process strategy that occurred. So it's a bit linked to foreign policy. So why we are doing the foreign policy course, we just need to also try to think of how to link it to our daily day-to-day activities. Now, let us begin with the meaning of foreign policy before we talk about foreign policy analysis, the meaning of foreign policy. Can anyone tell us the meaning of foreign policy here, please? What is foreign policy? What is foreign policy? Anybody? Anybody?
Okay. Can I try?
Yeah, sure, you can try.
Okay. So foreign policy, are the plans. This can also be decisions or actions that a state takes to protect its national interest in relation with other countries when dealing, doing international relations or in the course of international relations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your contribution. Now, when we say foreign policy, we refer to the actual external activities, position, and decision of a state. Listen, the activity, the position, and the decision of a state externally, that is foreign policy. That is what a government say or does in a relation with any other country. What a country say or does, like what they've done, what this country says or does in its relation with any other country. And so now, so for instance, now when you say Nigeria recognizes a government, let's say we just recognize another president in maybe Somalia, South Africa, Niger, we just recognize them. Or when you say America impose sanction on Iran, or when you say China claim, how do you call a seaport in China Sea? Listen, so these are sample or instances of foreign policy. That is anything a country is trying to do that have to do with external politics, not its domestic politics. Understand? So anything a country do that has to do with an external politics, not domestic policy, that is foreign policy. Say foreign, understand? Foreign land, foreign policy, foreigner. Do you get? So that is to say, foreign policy remain an output of a government process, an output of a government process. That is what we do outside. Now, we know the meaning of foreign policy. We just need to find a way to find the meaning of foreign policy analysis. So foreign policy analysis on its own, let me share my slide. Foreign policy analysis on its own, it's from the slide, you can see from the slide, it's an academic discipline that study and explain the decisions of a government externally. Understand? So when it comes to foreign policy, it's an academic study of field of study, but it tries to explain and study the decision of a government when it comes to an external politics. It investigates the process by which those decisions we are talking about are made. Who made the decision? Who was involved when the decision was taken? What information was taken? What pressure did they face before they take the decision? You understand? So the cost we are trying to, the foreign policy we are trying to understand is, the analysis is, we want to understand what push a government to take a decision externally. Because a government will not take a decision. This person should mute himself. Moses. So a government will not take a decision in a bloom like this. They will take a decision based on some scenario. Maybe they are pressurized to take a decision. Maybe they are forced. Maybe they feel cheated. Understand? So in essence, foreign policy analysis is like a subfield of international relation that seek to explain the foreign policy behavior of decision makers. Understand? It's a subfield of international relation that is part of international relation, is part of international relation course. But that foreign policy analysis, it tends to analyze, explain the policy behavior of decision makers. Listen, and when he tries to look at the policy behavior of decision maker, he does not look at the president only. It looks at the president, its administration, even the people in the country. Because sometimes when president take decisions that have to do with the interests of the country, they are pressurized by the cabinet. Listen, so with foreign policy analysis, we tend to investigate into decision-making unit. That is the individual decision makers, maybe the Minister of Foreign Affairs or the president itself, or anybody that is making the decision. And the condition they were when they were making the decision, did they force them to take the decision? Because there are some internal and external conditions that will prompt the government to make some decisions. Understand? And also, this foreign policy analysis we are explaining is just for us to understand the way a president or its cabinet or decision makers in a country conduct or make decisions. Understand? Because who is this person? I don't like. If you tend to make impact as a leader, sometimes you are being pressurized, so you'll be pressurized by external factors to make decisions. Sometimes internal factor can pressurize you. I'll give an example now. We decided to bring USA to Nigeria to come and help us solve insurgency in the northern part of Nigeria. Understand? The decision was not taken easily. There are many factors that push the president and its cabinet to decide, okay, we allow America to come and help us. Aside from the internal factor that we know, that crisis, insecurity, which is internal factors, the external factors also is there, which is people are saying that, okay, the Christians in the north are being persecuted, so which call for international commission to intervene. So if you want to not study foreign policy decision or foreign policy analysis, you want to put it into this, you need to understand what pushed Donald Trump to decide to bring its troop to Nigeria, what pushed Nigerian government to accept. That is the foreign policy analysis. And when we talk about foreign policy analysis, it has three objectives. Foreign policy analysis has three objectives. The number one objective of foreign policy analysis is that it seeks actor-specific information by looking below the nation or the state. That is, it's tend to look at the actors that are responsible for decision-making in the country. Not only the country as a whole, but the actor they are responsible for making the decision-making process in the country. It tends to look at them. And when we look at them in module, I think in module 2, we are going to explain some things. When you look at them, you look at the affective motive, you look at the brain, you look at the history, you look at the caliber of people they had. You study the leader. Sometimes, before Tinubu will make a decision, some people already know what is likely about to come because they've studied the kind of person he is. So in foreign policy, you study the actor that is responsible for decision making in the country, rather than focusing only on the state or the country. Listen, that is number one. Because normally, when we say foreign policy, it is never made by, like, a country doesn't make a foreign policy just like that. It makes foreign policy by the foreign policy of country is being made specifically by actors, the human being that are there. And this human being, you look at Buhari regime, look at Tinubu regime. There are some decisions Buhari took that Tinubu will never take. There are some decisions Tinubu is taking that Buhari will never take. So individual differences also influence foreign policy. That's number one. So, number two objectives is that it seeks to build theory by drawing on multiple disciplines. It seeks to build theory by drawing on multiple disciplines. So in essence, what we are trying to say with this is that for us to do foreign policy analysis, we need to look at many theories, many disciplines rather. We look at many disciplines. Psychology is there. In foreign policy analysis, psychology is there. Sociology is there. Organization theory is there. Even history, economics is there. So, which make foreign policy? Wumi Adeyinka is saying it seeks to what? Okay, you are asking, okay. It seeks to build theory by drawing attention on multiple disciplines, because you cannot analyze any foreign policy without looking at some theory. Sometimes you look at the economic, you look at economy, sociology, psychology, history, international relations. This person and the speaker, the mic. So I don't know. Temi. Listen. So in essence, foreign policy analysis is not that simple. You would think you are doing international relation only, but it will come to a stage that you are going to put history. You are going to look at the history. You are going to look at the psychology of the leader you want to analyze. You are going to look at how do you call the sociological aspects. Understand? Look at General Olusegun Obasanjo. When you look at Obasanjo regime, during his regime, Nigeria was the giant of Africa when it comes to integration in West Africa. Nigeria was respected in West Africa because it has its own principle. Aside from putting Nigeria at a higher stage in international politics, but it has a way to put on the image of Nigeria when it comes to international policy. So you look at the psychology of the leader, you look at the history of the leader, the caliber of the leader that we have. The third objective is that foreign policy analyze both the process and the output of foreign policy. That is foreign policy analysis. It analyzes both the process and the output of foreign policy. And when we say it analyzes both the process and the output of foreign policy, we mean, you see, if a decision is taken by a leader, how did the decision came to life? What did they say, or what pushed them to take the decision? Sometimes Tinubu, we say Tinubu remove subsidy, but what made Tinubu to remove subsidy? Then, aside from that one, you also need to you also need to look at the output. The output, that is, the decision the leader took, was it favorable or not favorable to the people? So it look at the process the decision was taken in the country, and also look at the result that decision give us. So the analyst, that is the foreign policy analyst, understand, must trace the initial process, the stimuli, at least what pushed the leader, the initial process, what pushed the leader to take the decision. Understand? To the stage where the decision was taken, and also to the implementation and consequences. Do you understand? So in essence, these are three objectives of foreign policy analysis. You already know the meaning of foreign policy, you know the meaning of foreign policy analysis, and you know the objectives of this foreign policy analysis. Now, and when we talk about foreign policy analysis, we have three types of foreign policy analysis. You can see from my slide. I don't know whether you can see my slide. We have three types of foreign policy analysis. I've shared the slide already with you. Number one type of foreign policy analysis is descriptive foreign policy analysis. Descriptive, from the word describe, description, descriptive foreign policy analysis. And the descriptive foreign policy analysis is there to establish the fact that by describing what policy was declared, what action were taken, what official relation exists between the actors that make the decisions. So this is usually the foundation. It's usually the foundation. But by describing a scenario that pushed the leader to make a decision. Understand? So normally, you cannot analyze what you've not first described. Before you analyze anything, you need to describe it before you analyze it. So it remains a foundation. It remains a foundation. Number two types of foreign policy analysis is evaluative. Evaluative. And when we say evaluative foreign policy analysis, that one go further. It go beyond describing foreign policy analysis. With evaluative foreign policy analysis, it tends to assess the consequences of foreign policy decision and ask some question. Like it asks three questions. The number one question is were the goal desirable? For instance, Tinubu decided to do something like South African. They are killing Nigeria, they are persecuting Nigerians in South Africa. And Tinubu decided that, okay, we are going to close our embassy in Nigeria, in South Africa, and we are going to ask South Africa ambassador in Nigeria to go back to South Africa. You will now ask yourself, when it comes to evaluating foreign policy analysis, you now ask yourself, were that decision they took, was it desirable? And also, you ask yourself, were they achievable? Any decision they take, you ask yourself, did they achieve what they want to achieve? And what is the cost of what they take, the decision they take? What is the cost outcome? And you ask another question, that is there an alternative option than what they did? So with an evaluative analysis, you evaluate the consequences, you evaluate, okay, they took a decision. Is it good or bad? If it's good, why was it good? If it's bad, why was it bad? Is there an alternative to that decision? You evaluate the decision the government take. I said the third type is the analytical foreign policy analysis. Analytical foreign policy analysis. And when we talk about analytical foreign policy analysis, that one is a bit complex because it investigates how the combination of some factors influences decision. Understand? It investigates how combination of maybe the society, the government parastatal, the individual, the international community, how they have input in the foreign policy decision of a particular country. So, because at the analytical stage, you are not looking at the leader and the country alone. You are looking at both the internal and the external factors that can influence the decision-making process. Am I communicating? If you don't understand, just let me know and we go back again. Listen, we have like 2 hours, 30 minutes to spend together. So if you don't understand, just talk. Don't feel shy, eh? Don't feel shy. I'm a
Please,
student.
can you repeat the third one, please?
Yes, sir. Please explain the third one.
Thank you very much. I said the third one is analytical foreign policy analysis. From the word analyze. Listen, that means it's complex. When it asks you to analyze a foreign policy, that is, they ask you to analyze the decision of a country somewhere. Now, you now try to investigate some factors. You investigate some factors. You analyze. Let me just give you an example. Analyze why Tinubu allow Donald Trump to send his military troop to Nigeria. Listen, because that's a foreign policy decision. That is a decision that have to affect Nigeria internationally. So Tinubu allowed them to come. Now, if you want to analyze that one, you will combine some things together. You investigate some things together, combination of some things, the societal aspect, the governmental aspect, that is a society. What are Nigerians saying about it? The governmental aspect, the parastatal, the ministry. What is the ministry itself of the president saying about it? The individual people living in the country, what are they saying about it? The international community, what are they saying about it? Listen, because all these things I mentioned, they have an input. They also influence the decision of each president all over the world. So you analyzed it. When you analyze it, you will now decide, okay, because of these factors, then that's why the leader took this decision. Listen. So this is the level that is very serious, because you are not looking at one aspect only. You are looking at many aspects. In case you have any question, you can just raise hand and ask question, please. I will not read the comment. I can see someone putting comments, but I will not read the comment if it's question. Listen. So that's the analytical aspect. Listen. So it's where you try to answer questions about, okay, maybe the president has pressure from the masses, or has international pressure, or his ministry agreed to do something. Listen, so that is analytical aspect. Can I proceed? The person that asked the question. The person that asked the question.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, can I proceed?
Yes.
Now, for my slide, you will see traditional approach and comparative approach. Now, these are two.
I have a question.
Okay, Axel.
So, good evening. Can you say that this analysis is the combination of the descriptive and the evaluation? Because it seems like it is the combination of the two.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we can say that it's the combination of the first and the second, because with the analytical is complex than the descriptive and the second one. So with the analytical process, you go deeper. You go deeper to understand factors, both internal factor and external factor, that pushes the leader to take a particular decision. Understand? So evaluative might be a bit small, but when it comes to analytical, you go beyond. That is where the academic work starts. That is when the seriousness starts, to understand why the decision was taken. Thank you very much for your input. Now, the broad category, two broad approaches to study foreign policy analysis. Approaches to study foreign policy analysis, and there are two approaches. Listen, if you want to do foreign policy analysis, you want to analyze a decision that's happening internationally, there are two approaches. We have the traditional approach and we have the comparative approach. You can see from my slide, traditional approach and the comparative approach. And when we say traditional approach, listen, in traditional approach, traditional approach tend to treat foreign policy as a separate domain from domestic politics. Listen, that is, with traditional approach, when you want to analyze a decision, you don't input the domestic politics. You only focus on the international politics. I said, it primarily describe and focus on what government do and why they did it. I said, traditional approach focus on what the government do. That is what the Tinubu is doing and why is he doing that one. Understand? So with the traditional approach, the analyst, the foreign policy analyst, we try to look at the government, focus on what the government is doing and why is it doing that one, by interpreting it, linking it to the foreign, to the national interest and the state power. Understand? So, you know, when you say the government, we are not only focusing on the president only. We focus on some other people in the cabinet of the president. So, traditional approach look at foreign policies as a separate. It does not look at the domestic politics aspect. It look at the international aspect, but looking at what the president or the government is doing and why is their government doing that particular thing. You will see from my slide. For my slide, we say traditional approach does not consider the domestic politics. That is, it treats foreign politics as separate from domestic politics. You know, we have international politics and we have domestic politics. Normally, it should be able to look at the two, but it does not look at the domestic politics. The domestic politics is your country politics. You understand? Now, the domestic policy is your country policy. So the foreign policy and the traditional approach does not look at the domestic policy, your country politics. It looks at the international one. Understand? By focusing on those people that are making the decision that affect the country internationally, especially the senior staff, the ministers, or the ministries that are involved when it comes to international politics. That is the traditional approach. But the comparative approach, understand, the comparative approach is a bit complex. It's a bit complex because it does not look at only the international system. It combines both the international system and the domestic politics together. Listen, so the framework of comparative approach is five. It's five framework. The framework of comparative approach, when you are using comparative approach to analyze a foreign policy decision, listen, it's five framework. It's five. That is, number one is the personality of the leader. The personality or the character, when you say personality of the leader, the characteristics of leaders that are making the decisions. Their role, that is the position of the decision makers. It look at the personality of the leader, the roles of the decision makers, and it look at the characteristics of the state society. It look at the characteristics of the states. It look at the governmental structure. And also, it looks at the international environment. Understand? So, which means that the comparative approach is including both the international environment and also the domestic politics. Understand? I don't know whether you understand what I just listed now. I'll list it again. I say with traditional approach, when you want to analyze foreign policy, you only focus on what is happening in international environment, international system. You don't look at the domestic politics. Understand? You look at, or you only focus on the person that is making the decision internationally for your country. But when it comes to the comparative approach, you combine both the domestic politics and the international policy, but you focus on 5 things, 5 framework. 5 framework. Understand? The number 1 is the idiosyncratic. That is the personal characteristics of the leader. Number 2 is the role. That is the position of decision makers. Number 3 is societal. That is the characteristics of the state society, the characteristics of the state. Number 4 is the governmental aspect. That is looking at the structure of the government, looking at the cabinet, the parastatal or the ministries. And number 4 is systemic. That is the international environment. Am I communicating? If you don't understand, just ask question. Can I proceed? If you don't,
Yes, please.
well, somebody I want to ask question. Is there any question? Or can I proceed?
We don't understand. Come again.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now go there. Now let's go back now. We say, if you know the meaning of foreign policy analysis, is we are trying to analyze the decision of the decision taken by decision makers internationally. We now say that for us to analyze the decision, for us to understand why a leader is taking a decision, we have 2 approaches to analyze it. Listen, for us to understand why maybe the minister of foreign affairs or the president or the minister, why are they taking decision internationally, the decision they decide to take? Understand? We said you have 2 approach. The number 1 approach is called the traditional approach. Number 1 is traditional approach. With the traditional approach, we say it is primarily descriptive in nature. That is, it describes how the decision is taken in the international environment. It does not consider the domestic politics. Because sometimes when leaders take decision, maybe is the problem they are facing at home in the country, which we call domestic politics. Listen, that is pushing them to take decision outside. Example, we signed a deal with Turkey. Tinubu went to Turkey last time. We signed a deal on counter-terrorism aid. That is, Turkey should help us combat terrorism in our country. Now, if you want to use traditional approach to understand why we go and sign that deal, why not another deal? Why is it that we signed that treaty, not another one? If you want to understand, the traditional approach will tell you that focusing on what is happening in international system, in the international environment. Maybe something is happening in the international environment that push the president to decide on that particular decision. But they would ask you not to focus on the domestic politics, the problem you are facing at home. You will not focus on that one. That is traditional. You just describe that scenario. Maybe the Nigeria and Turkey, they have good bilateral relation. They have good, bilateral relation, and they understand the same. The president of Nigeria and the president of Turkey, they are friends. You look at the international system only. You don't look at what is happening domestically. That is about traditionally. But on the comparative approach, the comparative approach is complex. Listen, it's complex. It looks at the person that is making the decision, the environment the person is making the decision, which is the domestic, the country, the society, and it looks at the international system. But we now mention that for you to understand the comparative approach, you need to understand 5 things. for you to use that word, for you to use comparative approach to understand why a decision was taken internationally, you need to understand 5 things. Number 1 thing you need to understand is, we call it idiosyncratic. Understand? Let's leave big grammar. We call it, the first thing you need to understand is the personal characteristics of leaders. If you want to know Tinubu, you will know that the characteristics of Tinubu is different from Buhari, is different from Yaradua, is different from Jonathan. Each president have different characteristics. So you need to understand the characteristics. We know Buhari was a military leader. The way a military man is going to think is different from the way a civilian president is going to think. So the decision Buhari is going to take as a military man, as an ex-military man, is going to be different from a civilian that is Tinubu or Jonathan. So that is the first thing you need to look at when you do comparative approach. You look at the leader, the personal characteristics of the leader. Number 2, the leader can be the president. Number 2 is telling us that you look at the role of that particular leader. It can be the president, it can be the ambassador, it can be the minister. So you look at the role, the position a decision maker hold, the person that makes the decision, what position does he hold in the country? Listen. Number 3, you look at the societal aspect. That is, you look at the characteristics of this person. You look at the characteristics aspect of the country. And then number 4, you look at the governmental aspect. That is the structure of the government, the ministry, the cabinet. And number 4, you look at the systemic aspect, which is the international environment. What this comparative approach is telling us is that for us to understand foreign policy well, for us to analyze foreign policy well, we don't need to focus on one aspect only. We need to look at many aspects. We need to compare some things that influence the decision-making process of a country. The person that asked the question, I don't know who asked the question. Is it okay? Do you understand now? I don't know who asked the question. I think it's Maria.
Yes, sir, we understand.
Thank you very much. Now,
Thank you.
to the next slide. The next slide is Mode 1, Section 2. Section 2. That is the evolution of foreign policy analysis. I know it's going to his story, but I will try my best to make you understand it easily. There is one past question. I don't know if Sherry is there. If she can share the past question in the group, you can open the past question. Please, Sherry, can you share the past question in the group? I don't know whether she's here. Is she here? Hello? She's not here.
No, I just shared it. I gave a thumbs up.
Okay, you just shared it now. Okay. Now, okay. So I want someone to open the past question and look at question number 1 of the other past question. Question number 1. What does question number 1 is in? Or the first past question, question number 1.
Can I go ahead? It says, explain the 3 major paradigmatic work that builds the foundation of foreign policy analysis.
You look at the foundation of foreign policy analysis. Listen. So when you look at the past question, if you look at the next year, or you look at all the past questions, is 9 past questions. When you look at them, you will see they will talk about evolution of foreign policy analysis. You talk about the evolution of foreign policy analysis. Listen now. And whenever we talk about evolution of foreign policy analysis, we have 3 evolution. I asked her to share the past question so that you can see that some of these questions are going to come out in the examination. I'm not saying it's going to come, but there are things in the course material. So it's story, but we'll try our best to understand it. Listen, so evolution of foreign policy analysis as a discipline. Listen, that is why foreign policy analysis had to be invented, why they have to create it. Listen, and where did it start from? Listen. So from the slide, you can see from my slide, I mentioned first generation, second generation, and contemporary foreign policy analysis. So I will just take from the first generation of foreign policy analysis. The first generation of foreign policy analysis laid the foundation of foreign policy. It was between 1954 and 1973. That marked the beginning, the birth of foreign policy analysis. It marked the birth of foreign policy analysis. If you look at that past question that I shared with you, they are going to ask you to state the contribution of Richard Sidney, H.W. Bunton. That is, they will ask you to say those scholars that contributed to the foundations of foreign policy analysis. Listen, now, this foreign policy analysis it started from, from 1954 to 1973, and it was through the publication of a monogram by some scholar. That is through the publication of some scholar. You can slide, I don't know how to pronounce the name, but you can just make it big by my screen. You can make it big so you can see the name. So we have Sidney, we have Bronx, and we have Bunton. They had a contribution in foreign policy. So the first generation of foreign policy analysis is known as the foundational aspect of foreign policy analysis. So the scholars we mentioned now, both Sidney and his colleague, they argued that the key to explaining why states behave the way they behave, do lie not in international system. That is, the way a country behaves, according to this first generation scholars, the way a leader takes decision, or the way a country takes decision, does not lie on the international system, but the way the decision maker define the situation. That is, if a leader needs to take a decision, we are not looking at the international system, but how the leader perceive the situation before he takes decision. If I will give an example with Tinubu for you to understand. If Tinubu decide to allow Donald Trump to bring American soldiers to Nigeria, listen, these scholars, first generation scholars, they are telling us that it is not about the international system or international pressure, but it is about how the leader define the situation, how Tinubu itself perceive the problem. Understand? So to them, to the first generation scholar, to them, states act on the basis of how their leader perceive and interpret reality. That is, if the leader, they only focus on the leader. That is, if the leader sees danger, he's going to take a decision based on the danger. If the leader sees opportunity, he's going to take a decision with his opportunity. So if the leader is doing his SWOT analysis by looking at the strength, the weaknesses, the opportunity and the threat. So any decision that leader take that particular time is what we need to look at. We should not focus on the international system. We should focus primarily on the leader and how it perceives the problem. Example is Russia and Ukraine. You see that Russia and Ukraine are currently fighting. And one of the reasons is that Russia don't want Ukraine to leave their zone and join the other party, which is an enemy to them. Because if Ukraine join them, it's going to be a problem to Russia. Because from Ukraine, they can be spying on Russia. That is, if Russia leader is now bombarding Ukraine, according to this first generation leader, they say that it's because Russia leader perceive danger. That is why he is bombarding Ukraine and don't want Ukraine to go on their way. Understand? So to the first generation leader, Mercy. To the first generation leader, listen, they base their analysis. Listen, they base their analysis on the leader perception and interpretation. How the leader perceive the international system, or how the leader perceive scenario. They don't
Please, Sir Akanji, all this, please, my fellow colleagues, try and mute your video. We are seeing somebody driving. It's a distraction on the screen. We are seeing somebody me. We are seeing Postpa. If you can close your video at least.
I thank you very much. I make Sherry a co-host. So in case anybody is speaking without permission, you can just mute them for me. Or in case anybody open the mic, you can just mute them. So I just make a co-host now, so that they will not distract us. So
thank you.
So as I was saying, the first generation scholars, understand, their own is that for us to understand, for us to do foreign policy analysis, we need to look at the leader and how the leader perceive or interpret reality. Understand? Not the objective, not the international scenario that circulates. Understand? So this was a revolutionary idea, because before the first generation, that was traditional way of looking at what is happening in the international system. But this one, they shifted to the leader itself, looking at how the leader, is the leader afraid? Maybe because he's afraid, that is why he takes decision. Or is the leader seeing opportunity somewhere? Understand now? So this first generation scholars, what they're trying to explain to all is what we call the action, reaction, interaction model. Action, reaction, interaction. Understand? For example, for you to understand action, reaction, interaction is that state a country, we call it, let's say Nigeria, state A, Nigeria. Action provoke a response from state B, which is maybe Cameroon. Understand? Which in turn shape the decision of how state B is reacting to state A, Nigeria. That is, if a country action provoked another country, understand? If Nigeria action, the Nigerian behavior provoked Cameroon, Cameroon now decided to react. The Cameroon president now decided to react in retaliation. We need to study that particular, the interaction between the leaders that are taking the decision. Understand? So, but that is the first generation. But few years later, after the first first leaders, understand, the first leader you are seeing on my slide, I don't know whether you can see the slide very well. If you are using the phone, it's going to be a bit difficult. But the first lead name you can see from my slide, you will see Sidna, Bronx, and Sarpen. Sidna, Bronx, and Sarpen. Let me just go back. You see, 1954, they are the first scholars. But later on come some scholar also. Later on come James Rusno. James Rusno in 1966. He was part of the first generation scholars. The past question, we'll check the past question together when we are done with this part. So he was part of the first generation scholars. Now, he made his own contribution also. And his own contribution, he called for actor-specific theory. He called for actor-specific theory. That is, we should focus on the actors making the decision in the country. Listen, looking at explaining the behavior of specific type of actor in specific type of context. The way Tinubu is going to react when he's happy is totally different to the way he's going to react when he's sad. Or the way he's going to react when he's being pressured is totally different to the way he's going to react when he's not pressured. So James Rusno in 1966 provided 5 variable framework. he provided 5 variable framework. You can see from my slide, we have the idiosyncratic, the role, societal, government, and systemic. You understand? So this idiosyncratic, that's what I explained in comparative aspect. I explained that one in comparative approach. That's the five things he proposed. Listen, the 5 things he proposed. So because these 5 things also has an impact on how the leader reacts. Maybe the personality of the leader, the role of that leader, how the leader sees problem in the society. You understand? That is the first, as the second leader in the first generation. Sherry she's not doing her work. We should unmute them. Anybody. Someone herself
I
Nambel.
think you should also make Rufa among them. Lawa can do the work very well.
Sir, please
Bell,
come
can you mute
again.
your video, please?
Hi. Hi. Hello, Abdul.
Did we lost him? He muted.
No. He's still online, I think.
No, he's online, but he's muted.
I think I'm mistaken. Let me. Hello, Mr. Abdul. Can you unmute?
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you. So I was talking. We talk about the 4 scholars. Understand? You can check on the slide for you to get the names. We talk about the 4 scholar. There are 3. The second scholar.
Madam, they close the video. You open it again, please. It's a distraction on the screen.
Rufa, you're already a co-host. You can just mute her because speaking is also a distraction. You can just mute her. Maybe these things are happening without her knowing. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's be kind. Thank you.
So the first scholar, there are 3. Understand? We've talked about them. The second scholar in the first generation is Rusno. We talk about him. The third scholar is Sprout. Understand? Sprout is a third scholar between 1956 to 1965. Now, the third scholar major contribution in the first, in the first generation is what we known as a psycho-milieu. Psycho-milieu. Psycho is SPSCHO, and milieu is MILIEU. Yeah, psycho-milieu. Understand now? So it was Margaret, Harold, and Sprout. Margaret, Harold, and Sprout. They are the scholars in the third scholar that make contribution in the first generation. Now, what they did as contribution is that the argument was that foreign policy decision can only be properly understood by reference to the psychological aspect of leader and also the situational context and political context. That is, for you to understand foreign policy, according to them, you need to look at the faculty, the brain of that particular leader, the faculty, how does that leader think? You also look at the situation that pushed that leader to think the way he's thinking. Or you also look at the political context. Maybe it's democratic or it's authoritarian or military in nature. Understand? So they are not looking to them. They are not looking at the environment only. They are looking at how the leader the environment, and the political aspect is influencing the leader to take a decision. Understand? So to the third contributors, you can see from the slide we say psychomilieu. In case you don't know how to write, you can see there. That's their own contribution. Listen. So the decision makers, to the first generation scholars, the decision maker act on the perception, not on the reality itself. They act on the perception, not on the reality itself. So in module 3 or module 2, we are going to do Cuba Missile Crisis. You understand how America and USSR take decision. You understand how John Kennedy took decision. You understand the pressure. Sometimes leader takes decision based on their own personal will. Sometimes they take decision based on influence of people in the cabinet or based on the pressure they are having. That is about the first generation. Now, the second generation was between 1974 to 1993. 1974 to 1993. The second generation, they build their own idea on the foundation of the first generation, but they go beyond the first generation. That is, they went on the, they focus on two things. Let me just say, they focus on two things. They focus on two things. They focus on the small group dynamic and the bureaucratic structure, which means that for a leader to take decision, two things is involved. There are some cabal, there are some small group, you don't see them, but they have power in the administration of a leader. Understand? So the small group dynamic aspect, this one saying that you should look at the small group aspect, the small group dynamic. After looking at those small group, those people that are small in the cabinet, but they carry power, looking at them, after looking at them, you need to look at the bureaucratic structure, how the parastatal, how the ministry is in the country. These two influence the decision-making process of any country. Listen, now, on a small group, you can see from the slide, on a small group aspect, we talked about the work of one scholar. You can see the name, Janice, Arvin Janice. Listen, so he brought up the concept we call the group thinking. The group thinking. The group thinking, that is, there is tendency for members of a coercive decision-making to prioritize group harmony, understand, than any other thing. Which means that the group think, according to this second generation scholar, is saying that this small group we are thinking about, they will always prioritize, they will always put in place, they will always put forward their own faculty, their own interests. They will prioritize the harmony of that particular group. Listen, that is what they say in the group, what they say in the small circle or in the group, they prioritize that one. Listen. So in a group thinking situation, listen, there is usually how do you call consensus over rational. That is, agreement is made. Agreement, anything we agree in this group, that is what is going to be the decision we take over. Listen. So normally, any information, any critical information that contradicts the group preferred course of action is dismissed or ignored. We all know Nigeria, and even Nigeria, not only Nigeria that we have, there are some people that are not in Tinubu administration, but they have a say. That is the good. They have a say. They have a way they influence the decision. The group thinking, the small group. In our own language, we say the cabal. And each government has its own cabal, which you don't even see them on TV, but they have a say. Listen, so that is about the second generation. scholar. The second another thing is the second generation scholar. They talk about the bureaucratic means.
Whether I will understand one or two things.
What are you saying? Do you have a question? So, aside from talking about the group thinking, on the subject of bureaucracy, on the subject of bureaucracy, that is, to the second generation scholars, they believe that the bureaucratic means in the country also influence the decision-making process. Understand? For instance, now, the ministry or the parastatals or the cabinet that are there, they make decisions. We'll take an example. During President Muhammadu Buhari, when border was closed, this ministry, Inland Revenue, I think, what's their name? Inland Revenue Ministry. I think they have a specific name. Inland Revenue something ministry. They were affected. Those the custom, they were affected. The army, they were affected. Now, they were affected in the sense that custom, if Buhari open border and things are coming, custom is going to make money. Those inland revenue, how do you call them? They are going to make money. The army,
Land Revenue Service.
Thank you. So the army also, on the other hand, also, they are also affected. Now, decision is that should we close border or we should open border? If we close border, we are protecting our infant industry. But if we open border, we are going to make money if things are coming, and it's going to affect infant industry. So, which means that sometimes before a decision is taken, it passes through different ministry. They will argue among themselves that no, president, do our own ministry decision. Another the parastatal or another ministry, they say no, do our own. So there is going to be also bureaucratic or bureaucracy also influence decision making in foreign policy. Understand? So in Cuban Missile Crisis, in Module 2, you understand how bureaucracy also influence. But I'm just taking Nigeria so that we can also have a picture. So if you have a picture, you will know how you can write in the examination. Understand? Now, the lesson of the second generation, for what we need to understand in second generation, is what we know as how do you call, with two things: the small group thinking and the bureaucracy. You understand now? So most foreign policy emerge from the coalition of bureaucratic means or political bargain. That is, if Tinubu wants to take a decision and is affecting 3 ministries, these 3 ministries are going to bargain. So there is going to be political bargain. And also, if the bargain finish, if the decision does not favor the cabal, which is a small group, if the decision is not favor the group dynamic, they are going to wipe it away. So if a decision does not favor the small group, if it's not that favoring them, they are going to wipe it away, which means that final say is going to come out when the small group agree that, okay, this is what we should do. That is what the second generation scholar says. I know it's story, but I'm trying my best to put it in a way you can just picture it in your head. Now, the third one is the content.
Sorry, sir.
Okay.
Sorry, sir. I really didn't get the second generation because I was praying. I'm so sorry to take you back.
Hope you pray for us.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I will repeat myself. So
Thank you.
Generation. We say the second generation, they have their own inspiration from the first generation, but they shifted the analysis, their own analysis, into 2 directions. The small group direction, or the small group dynamic, or the small group direction, and the bureaucratic structure. And I'll try to give you an example now. Bureaucratic structure, and whenever we say bureaucratic structure, we talk about our ministries, the ministries a government will have in its cabinet, or the parastatal or the cabinet. That is bureaucratic structure. But when we say the small group dynamic, this small group dynamic Another word I can call it in our own language in Nigeria is cabal. Listen, is cabal, I can call them. They have the power to sweep away any decision that does not favor them. And any decision that is taken there in the small group thinking, any decision that is taken in the small group thinking have power, has weight. So they are there to advise or to guide the leader or decision makers. So in a small group situation, in a small group thinking or situation or dynamic, if decision does not favor the group, if critical information is contradicting them or it does not favor them, the group, like if it does not favor what they decide in the group, there are likelihood for them to dismiss or ignore that decision. After Tinubu sitting down with his minister or his cabinet, there are some people who seek advice from them. We might not even see them in the TV like that, but he will seek advice from them. And it's not only Tinubu, it happens everywhere in the world. There are some people they are not seen on the TV every day. Look at what happened in Lagos when they wanted to select a consensus candidate for APC. Listen, they have a council of elders in Lagos. They have council of elders, and this council of elders, any governor they approve is going to be their consensus, and that is how it happened. So it happened everywhere in the world. So this small group, they have influence in the decision-making process. They can influence.
APC Governors Forum.
I'm not an APC man. I'm just taking an example. Understand? So we are not. Thank you very much for your contribution. So, but aside from the group thinking, aside from this small group thinking, they also have the bureaucratic, also the bureaucratic. How do you call means? Which means that group thinking affects decision making. Bureaucracy also affects decision making. So on the bureaucracy aspect, we make reference to, my phone is low. In bureaucratic aspect, we make reference to all the ministries, how they do political bargain, how they compete among themselves. Sometimes a leader wants to take a decision. If it does not favor maybe 5 ministries, all these 5 ministries are going to bargain among themselves. So when they bargain among themselves, they will try to find consensus. Okay, President, you can follow this decision. I've given the example of Buhari when he closed border and it affected some ministries. So in Cuba Missile crisis, when the president of America wanted to take a decision, so the Air Force were there, the Army, they were there, the diplomat, they were there, and Army says that let us go and fight. Air Force said that let us go and fight. The diplomat said no, we should not fight. Which means that there is 3 arms, 3 deployed bureaucratic means that have been affected. But eventually, what the president did, that the president of America followed diplomacy. That is, let us talk diplomatically and resolve this. That is why they call it the Cold War. Sorry, the Cold War aspect. I wanted to make reference to the Cold War. They did war, but they did not fight. So we are going to explain that one in module 2 of this course. So I'll proceed to the next one, please. The next one is the contemporary foreign policy analysis. And the contemporary foreign policy analysis, we are making reference to 1994 to 1990 to present day. 1994 to present day. My phone is low. Let me take my charger. 1994 to this year we have. Where's my charger? So we are talking about 1994 to this year. Okay. I'm very sorry. My phone is low. You can see from my slide. From the slide, if you zoom the slide, I've already shared a slide with you. So contemporary foreign policy, that is the generation we have from 1994 till this day. And the contemporary foreign policy has been shaped by two major events. It has been shaped by two major events. The first event is the Cold War, while the second event is the September 11 crisis. What is the September 11 crisis? Anybody to help us explain that one? September 11 crisis.
Osama bin Laden bombed the World Trade Center.
Oh, thank you very much. So that was when the World Trade Center
You
was
have to put allegedly.
yes. That was when the World Trade Center was bombed in America. Yes, so in essence, these two events, the Cold War and the 9/11 event, shaped the contemporary foreign policy. Understand? So that was the period we had new realism was put in place in like permanently. Now, I'll explain that one for you to understand, please. You will not see me because my phone is low. And we mentioned that 9/11 and Cold War had an impact in contemporary foreign policy. Now, at the end of Cold War, understand, at the end of Cold War, there was problem with international relation theory. Because there are some things that happened during the Cold War that were not even in reality before. Understand? So, the foreign policy scholars, they explain the scenario that happened in the Cold War by pointing to the personality and the belief of leaders that were involved. There was two leaders that were involved, the leader of America and the leader of, how do you call it? USA. Understand now? So these two leaders had different way of doing things. They were at the verge of fighting each other, like this nuclear war, but they were not able to fight each other. So now, the end of Cold War makes scholars to understand that there was something we call human decision. There was something we call human decision that affects how leaders react at a specific moment. Because during Cold War, any single mistake, there will have been nuclear war between these two countries. So, but they did not fight. They were all out to fight, but they did not fight. So, that is the first aspect we need to understand here. The second aspect is the 9/11 aspect. The attack of the 9/11 aspect demonstrated that non-state actors also have influence in decision-making process. They also influence the foreign policy because we believe that those people that bombed the America then, they were terrorists. So if terrorists bombed America, it makes America to change their perception that they can face problem from terrorists, which are non-state actors. Before, non-state actors were not put in place as an actor that can influence decision-making process. For you to understand, just know that the Cold War let us understand that the human decision of a leader can make us change the way we see things in international system. Aside from that one, the non-state actors also, they have an impact in international system. That is, they can influence the foreign policies of countries. Understand? So the contemporary foreign policy integrated what we know as the behavioral economics and cognitive psychology. Now, what I mean by behavioral economy and cognitive psychology, we are making reference to the behavior of the psychology of leader involved in the country or leader involved in the foreign policy process, and also we are making reference to the economic aspect that influences the decision-making process of a country. So I'm sorry, I'm trying to charge something. My phone, my charger is not charging. Do you understand? If you don't understand, let me just know. Do you understand?
Can you repeat, please? Can you repeat?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, I will just summarize it in a way. Okay. Contemporary foreign policies. Understand? Contemporary foreign policy, that one they focus on two things. Two things shape the contemporary foreign policies. The first thing is the Cold War, while the second thing is the 9/11 crisis. Now, the Cold War helps us to understand that the personality of a leader has an impact in its foreign policy. The personality of a leader has an impact in its foreign policy. That is where we come with the psychology of that leader, the psychological perception of that leader, or the psychological theory of that leader. The second crisis that influenced the contemporary foreign policy is the 9/11 crisis. That one helps us to understand that terrorists who are non-state actors, they also have impact in influencing foreign policy. Understand? That is, sometimes if a leader takes a decision regarding its security, maybe it was influenced by non-state actors, which are terrorists. Listen, in this case, terrorists. If Nigeria decided to call America to come in now, we're influenced because of terrorism. That is why Tinubu agreed that okay, we should bring external aid to come and help us, which means that non-state actors also influence the foreign policy decision of a country. Understand now? So the contemporary foreign policy addresses all the challenges we have with globalization, terrorism, or international decision-making process. So what you need to understand with the contemporary world is that they focus on two things. So they help us understand both human beings, both our leaders, those in government, and those that are not in government. Those in government, the state actors. Those that are not in government, non-state actors, they have an impact when it comes to foreign policy decision making. So we need to study both of them. We need to analyze both the state actors and the non-state actors. So that is what this contemporary foreign policy analysis is talking about. I know it's a bit story, but you just need to find a way to write your note, and then it's going to go well in the examination. Can I proceed, please? The person that asked question.
Yes, go ahead. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. So the next slide we are having here is, we are still in mode 1, section 3. We have foreign policy analysis level. That is levels of foreign policy analysis. The person that asked the past question, can you please open the past question again? I don't know if the person asked. Can you please open the past question again? Has that person opened the past question? Number 4. Look at question number 4 from the past question. So, past question number 1. Look at question number 4. Can anybody read it for us? Can anybody read that question?
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Explain the levels of analysis in foreign policy analysis. Why are they essential to foreign policy analysis?
Okay.
This is the question for number 4. Yeah.
That's what we want to do now. Look at past question number 2, question number 6. Past question number 2, question
Explain the levels. Yes. Explain these levels of analysis, individual, state, and international.
Thank you. That's the same thing with the other one also. And if you look at question number 3, question number 5.
Explain the levels of analysis in foreign policy decision making in Africa.
Okay, that's the same question, which means that every year this question comes out. Look at past question number 4, question number 5 also.
I can't hear you, sir.
Past question number 5. Past question number 4, question number 5.
Oh, okay. Discuss the levels of analysis, individual, state, and international system in foreign policy analysis.
So, which means that this thing, with this topic we want to talk about
Likely
every
to come
year
out,
in the
yes.
come out. Every year in the come out.
Yes.
So,
Even the
you-
5th one is there for number 5.
so
Number 5. Yes.
so every year this question they come out. So that means that
Yeah.
you need to understand them. Listen, if you have luck, you can see the exam and you can try to answer it in the examination. Now, when we talk about foreign policy analysis, that is, if you want to analyze the decision of leaders in international systems. Please, you are not seeing me because my phone.
Sorry, sir, I have a
You have a question.
Please, I have a question. Yes, please. Sorry to take you back. So that number 1 question for the first past question, as they say, explain the 3 major paradigmatic works. Which one is the 3 major ones? Sorry
They are
for
talking
taking you
about
back.
evolution. The evolution.
Does they say 3 major?
The evolution that builds the foundation. That is generation number 1. If you let me shift
Okay.
my slide, let me shift my slide to what we did now. For my slide, you can see that there is 3 scholars. For my slide, we have Sidna, we have Ruzno, we have Sprout. So they are just asking to talk about that aspect, their contribution.
So this Graham Allison is okay, it's the 2nd generation. Okay. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Now, we want to look at this question that I said every year it comes out in the examination with the levels of analysis in foreign policy. Level number 1, you have 3 levels. That is, if you want to understand, let me just, how can I let you understand okay. One of the fundamental questions in foreign policy analysis is where do foreign policy decisions come from? That is, where do the decision they are making, or the leader they are making decision, where do the decision come from? Or what are their origins? What is the origin of the decision the leaders are making? So for us to understand that question, for us to give an answer to that question, you need levels of analysis. You understand? You need levels of analysis. And the levels of analysis are the individual, the state, and the international. Sometimes you will see that they will say individual, state, and systemic or system level. Whenever you hear system level, it is the same thing as international level. Understand now? So this level, they are not competing with each other. They are on their own, but they have impact in the decision-making process. Understand? So level number 1 is the individual level. Understand? Individual level of analysis. So individual level of analysis looks at the human being that is making decision, foreign policy decision. That is, those people that are making decision making, that is what the individual level looks at. And at the individual level, there are some core questions you ask. One of the core questions you ask is, how do the personal attributes or characteristics of a leader, a decision maker, affect or influence the foreign policy choices they make? Understand? I repeat myself. How is the characteristics or the attributes of a particular leader or decision maker affect the decision they make, the foreign decision they make? And when we are talking about the characteristics or the attributes, you need to look at the psychology, their emotion, their cognitive. Maybe the way a military soldier, a military man is going to think as a leader is totally different than the way a civilian is going to think. So you look at the psychology, their emotion, the emotion. Somebody that grew up from polygamous family, the way he's going to think is going to be totally different from somebody that did not grow up from polygamous family. Understand? And you also look at the cognitive limitation, the brain. How do the leader think? Listen, let us take it one after the other. The individual level. We are talking about the individual level. The cognitive factors, that is, the cognitive factors influence the thinking of the leader. Because the cognitive factors, that is where the leader gathered the information. He weighed the information and he chose the best option. Those people in the banking sector or in economics, we have something, or in marketing, we have something we call SWOT analysis. That is where the leader is going to analyze the information he has, look at the strength, look at the weaknesses, look at the threat and opportunity available. So the capacity of a leader to make a decision by analyzing the information it has at hand, that is the cognitive factor. That one affects the leader. Understand? You'll be wondering why is that twins that they come from the same mother, sometimes they don't like the same food. The same thing applicable to leaders. The same leaders that grew up from the same country. We have Buhari, we have Tinubu, we have Obasanjo, we have all these leaders. But if you look at all these leaders, they have different way of taking decision. They have different way of taking decision. The way Tinubu is taking decision is totally different from Buhari. The way Buhari took his own is different from Jonathan. That is the cognitive factors. It affects how the leader takes decision. So the information that they are sending to a leader or the decision maker is going to be filtered by that leader. They will filter it. They will look at it. Okay, which one is good? Which one is bad? Which one should I do? Which one should I leave? I said that is the first aspect we need to look at when it comes to the individual, the individual decision maker. The second one is the emotion of that particular leader. That is, sometimes leaders make decisions based on anger, based on fear, based on pride, based on grief. So they make decisions based on their emotion. Understand? Maybe if the leader, the wife traumatizes him at home, he's going to come and disturb. It's like you are working for your boss, and all of a sudden you see your boss is just shouting at anybody at work. Maybe that particular boss is the wife is traumatizing at home. So the emotion, you look at the emotion. What pushed that boss to act the way he's acting? His emotion. Maybe he's not happy, or anger, or personal grievance. So you look at that one, you analyze that one also, the frustration and the aggression aspects. And after doing that one, you also analyze the psychological factors. But before I go to the psychological, sometimes the emotional factors also comes in. Let me give an example now. Tinubu went to, I think, Jos, right? He went to Jos last month, if I'm not wrong. He went to Jos last month. What pushed Tinubu to go to Jos last month? People were being killed in Jos, right? So if he takes some decision there, you will look at the condition, the scenario that pushed him to take that decision. Maybe fear or anger for killing people easily, or personal pride. But you shall know, you analyze what pushed him to go to Jos. Why leaving Abuja to Jos? You analyze that scenario, the emotion. Maybe he's feeling the pain of people that died there. That is the emotional aspect to analyze when it comes to the individual level. Understand? Why the third thing you analyze at the individual level is the psychological factors. Those people that do NCE, teacher or teaching education in first degree, you will understand that in education we have the affective, the cognitive, and the psychomotive domain. That is what we need to understand. That is, if you want to teach, you need to teach in a way that you use the brain, you use your emotion, you use your gesture. So the emotion. That is, you need to let the student understand you. You need to travel with the student. The cognitive, you need to pour what? So you need to look at the brain of the leader. You need to put the emotion of the leader and also the psychology of the leader. In all fields, it's there. Even in marketing, if you want to study your clients, if you want to know, okay, if this is how I need to convince my client, you need to study the leader to know, okay, don't let me go on Sunday, because on Sunday, my leader is not happy every Sunday. On Monday, he's happy. You go there. So you look at the cognitive, emotion, psychology of the leader. So beyond the cognitive and the emotion, the psychological aspect is very important. The psychological aspect is because the psychological aspect make the leader to know if there is threat, if there is wahala, problem. Listen, if the leader sense wahala or he sense threat or problem, because anything comes from the psychology, 1 + 1, it's never 1, it's 2. But if the leader say 1 + 1 is 1, that means there's problem somewhere. So the psychological aspect is to test the psychology of the leader. To test the psychology of the leader. What is happening in the brain of the leader? Listen now. So we will take in the next how do you call module. We are going to see some example, some Cold War and how do you call Cuba Missile Crisis. You will see some examples. You understand? You understand from them. That's the individual level. Level number 1. Level number 2 is the state level. The state level. So the state level shifts its own analysis from the individual people. Understand? So now, when you come to the state level, you are not looking at the decision making, the decision makers in the country. You are not looking at them. You look at the attribute of the state itself, because the attribute of the state also influences its decision making process. It influences its foreign policy. And whenever we are talking about the attribute of the state, you can see from my slide, I said the size of the country, the resources the country have, the population of the country, the regime, maybe they are military or they're civilian or democratic, the economic strength or the military capability. You need to study that one. Donald Trump went to Venezuela to go and catch the president of Venezuela, Maduro. If they have military prowess, they will have pushed American soldier back. So sometimes, if America decided to go to Venezuela to go and catch the president, that is the military aspect also is influencing it. So the state, they believe they are powerful. So the argument of the state level is the argument of the state level, understand now, is for us to understand the power of the attribute of the state when it comes to foreign policy. Understand? The power of the foreign, and we will not go to that one, but if you read MIAD 809, where we talk about states, you will know the attribute of the state, the size of the state. Listen, the size of the state, the natural resources, the population, the political system, the military capability. These are all the economic strengths. Understand? So you can make reference with my slides. So this thing we mentioned also influence the decision-making process or the foreign policy decision. And the third level is the systemic level, or in your past question, if you don't see as systemic level, you're going to see it as international level or system level. You understand? Thank you. So you are going to see it as either systemic level, international level, or system level. You understand? So the system level of analysis, this one focus on the structure and characteristics of international system. You will know that the first one focused on those that are making decisions. The second level focused on the country, the characteristics of the country. But the third one is focusing on the structure and the characteristics of the international system itself. So that is, we need to look at the international system, the characteristics of the international system. And the number one thing we need to look at is the anarchical state of the international system. You can see from my slide, the anarchical state of the international system. That is, there is no defining characteristics of international system. That is, we don't have a centralized authority to make order in the international system. That is why some president or some country, they can do and undo. You understand now? So there is no centralized system of government that is making order. There is no world government or world police. No global police. Understand? So we need to look at the anarchical system of government. That is, things are not in order in the international system. Aside from that one, we need to understand the power structure in the international system. Although the international system is anarchy, but power is being shared among some people, some countries. If you remember, in MIAD 809, we talk about unipolar, bipolar, and multipolarity, which means we need to study that aspect also. That is, who in the world, which country in the world has power. After studying that one, you also need to study the interdependence of country or the interconnectedness of country. How countries are depending on each other via through trade, financial flow, cultural exchange, institutional linkage. How are they linked? How are countries interacting together? Listen, so you need to understand these three levels. Please, I want to drink water. Just bear with me. So if you have a question, you can ask your question. I will be listening to your question while I drink water. You can ask your question.
If you can open your video, it's good when we see how you demonstrate. Sometimes, if I want to remember how you define population, I will look at your hand, will determine the size.
I'm coming, please. Just bear with me.
Please, can you explain the state level of analysis again?
Which one?
The state level of analysis.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let me open my camera. I have 90%. So I'm trying my best so that the phone will not off, but I have 90%. I'm open my camera. State level of analysis. Now,
you drink water, you eat food, that's good.
What is that?
I say you drink water, you munch something, it's good. Let's get some energy.
Wow. So I have to put something in my mouth. Because...
All right, sir, that's a good one.
Now, okay. So we say that the past question says that we should explain the three levels of international foreign policy analysis. The number one is the individual level. The number two is the state. And whenever we say the state of state, we make reference to the country. Listen now. And when we say the country, we look at the attributes and the characteristics of the country. Listen, in this course, we don't say country, we say state. Listen now. So I just say country so that you try to picture it also. So we look at the characteristics of the attributes of the country or the state. Now, and when we talk about the attribute, things we need to look at is the size of the country, the resources, the natural resources, the population, the regime. You understand? The regime, maybe military regime or authoritarian regime or democratic regime. And we look at the military capability and also the economic strength. You understand? I've listed it in my slide. Now, when I say that, the argument of this state level is that this structure I mentioned, the structural characteristics of the state I mentioned, they have significant influence on the foreign policy of a country because it always predicts how the country is going to react in terms of problem. In Iran, the Iranian government closed the Strait of Hormuz. They closed the seaway, the waterway route, which is affecting the whole world when it comes to the price of how do you call oil. It's because of the strategic location, the characteristics of the country. Listen, so with the state level, you need to understand what characteristics the country have, what advantage the country have. Some country, they don't have good size, but money, economy, they have the economy. So they have economic strength. So the economic strength is usually going to influence the decision-making process. Some country, they have military capability, which means that the military like Russia, like North Korean, the military capability they have is usually going to influence their foreign policy. Some country is population they have, like Nigeria. The population of Nigeria is making them to call us the giant of Africa. So the giant, that name giant of Africa, whenever the president or the decision maker in our country, they remember that, oh, we are the giant of Africa. They will not want to misbehave in the international system, the international community. They will not want to misbehave. So the characteristics or the attributes of a country also influence how the decision is taken internationally. So that is just a summary for you. The person that asked the question, I don't know if you are here.
Thank you. I got it now. Thank you.
Now we proceed to the next. We've talked about that. You see that question? As I said, it's every year you will see. You usually see it every year. So if you are lucky, you will see it this year also. Sometimes they bring it on weekend and it will not show up on weekday. Sometimes it show on weekday and it will not show on weekend. So now we proceed to the next topic. The next topic is foreign policy implementation and behavior. Are you tired? Please let me just know if you are tired. Also, because we've been talking.
No, fire on.
Okay.
Tired.
Okay. If you are tired, we can stop and continue tomorrow. So we are still in module 1. Understand now? We are still in module 1. So the last part of module 1 is foreign policy implementation and behavior. Foreign policy implementation and behavior. And so foreign policy and decision and behavior, foreign policy implementation. So sometimes foreign policy that is from decision to action, because some people will make decision and then they will proceed to action. So there is a gap. Sometimes there is a gap between the decision to pursue a foreign policy objective and the achievement. Sometimes our leader can decide something internationally, but they will not achieve it. Or they can achieve it, but not satisfactorily. Understand now? So the gap is where implementation happens. That is, were they able to implement what they are saying? Understand now? So foreign policy implementation is the phase of interaction between foreign policy actors and the context in which it operates. That is, you make a decision that you are going to repatriate, maybe your example, you are going to repatriate 100 Nigerian living in Libya that are being persecuted or they are being used as slaves, but you were not able to repatriate 100, you were able to repatriate 30. What happened? Why not 100? That means you were not able to implement what you are saying, what the decision you take. That's not. So the foreign policy decision, foreign policy implementation, we are making reference to the strategic or the process of translating objectives into practice. Listen, from the process of achieving your objectives. Now, so we now say that the instrument of foreign policy, number one instrument, how country achieve their foreign policy. Listen now. States have different instruments available to achieve the foreign policy. Listen, so, but I will arrange it from the number 1 to the number 5. The number 1 is diplomacy and negotiation. Let's see for my slide. Diplomacy and negotiation. Listen, the diplomacy and negotiation is number 1 process or instrument of achieving foreign policy, because this one involves direct discussion, dialogue, and persuasion between state representatives without coercion. That is, if one country offends me, instead of me to go to war, let me talk directly, negotiation, dialogue, persuade them. Or if I need money from one country and I want to achieve that money, I want to get that money, instead of me to go to force them to give me the money, let's go on negotiation, dialogue, persuade them to give him. So that's number 1. So every state, regardless of its size, its population, or its power, use diplomacy. No state, no country in the world don't use that one. That all the country in the world use diplomacy. Listen, because diplomacy it involves what we call soft power, SOFT, soft power. Listen now. So diplomacy is it involving soft power. You don't use power to force things to be done. You don't use coercion. Listen, you go on negotiation, dialogue, discussion. Listen. So with diplomacy, when you use diplomacy, you have that power to attract other country. Understand? You have that power to attract other country to your own side for them to do what you want. You attract them to come and do what you want. Maybe through appealing them, through persuasion. You can use your culture. Look at Nigerian Afrobeat. Every year, Afrobeat stars, they come to the UK here. Listen, which means they are propelling Nigerian image through culture. Listen, so rather than going into war, every time into war, you can use things to persuade other countries to do business with you or to interact with you. Listen, now, that's about diplomacy. The second instrument of foreign policy from my slide, you can see the slide, is positive sanction. Positive sanction. Positive sanction are reward offered to incentives. It's like an incentive. We call it positive sanction, but it's like incentive that they give out. Listen, such as foreign aid, preferential trade agreement, investment guarantee, technology transfer, military assistance, diplomatic recognitions. Listen now. So when you see countries needing help and they are not seeing help, but the president travel to another country to talk with the president of the other country, you will see that after the meet, like Tinubu has traveled to UK, has traveled to many countries, and whenever they come back, you will see them that they will say, okay, they've agreed that Nigeria and Turkey are signed bilateral agreement on trade and trade and security. So that it's a form of positive. We call it positive sanction because they are not giving you the reward just like that. They are not giving you what you are asking just like that. They are taking something in return. They are taking something in return. They can ask you to allow all the company all the companies in the country to come to your own country and establish themselves there without you taxing them too much. They can give you whatever you want, but they give you conditions. That is the positive sanctions. And the third one is a negative sanction. The negative sanction, the positive sanction, as I say, we say they give you anything you want. But the positive sanction, the negative sanction, my phone is the negative sanction are punishment for undesirable behavior in the international system. Like economic boycott, trade embargo, arms embargo, travel bans.
Sorry, sir, can you repeat yourself?
On which one?
The explanation for the negative sanction.
So we know the positive sanction. We say they are like reward. They give you they give you a deal. They give you investment. But the negative sanction, they are punishment for undesired behavior. You understand that? And when we say about punishment, we talk about economic embargo or boycott, trade embargo, arms embargo, travel ban. You know, there was a time Donald Trump said there's going to be travel ban for most African countries. That is also a negative sanction. Listen, Iran got a lot of sanction from the economic sanction. They block Iran from accessing most part of the world. North Korea also got a lot of economic sanction. Our diplomatic isolation. Listen. So sanction has become part of the contemporary international politics. It is happening everywhere now in international politics. Every year it happens. Listen, America have used sanctions to push country to do what they would not want to do. On many occasions, there was a time I don't know whether you read that news. There was a time they asked the foreign minister, the former one from Bauchi, what was his name? Toga. Is it Toga? What do we call him? The foreign
Ambassador Yusuf Tuga.
Yeah, Tuga. They asked him. They asked him to allow them to transport prisoners from America to Nigeria. He rejected the option. Because he rejected the option, they put some sanctions on us as a country. Because their own prison is congested with a lot of people, so they need some African country accepted them. Some African country accepted them. So if you don't do what they want, they put sanction on you. So the effect of this, the effectiveness of negative sanction is debatable. Sometimes some country can care, some country they don't care. Listen, some countries they don't care if you don't want to do transaction with them again, they don't care. But some countries they fall into the trap of succumbing and do whatever you want to do. The fourth one is political intervention. So political intervention is the involvement or the interference in the domestic affairs of another state. That is when you see a country intervening in the political affairs of another country. That is political intervention. And it happened through propaganda. You will see they will be sponsoring all the newspaper, all the broadcaster, all the influencers. Most of the influencers, some people sponsor them to say whatever they want to say online. I said, so another thing, political intervention can occur through funding of opposition group. It has happened several times in Nigeria whereby the opposition is being sponsored by another country because they don't want one particular leader. In Burkina Faso, in Mali, it's currently happening. All the terrorist attack you are seeing is being sponsored by France, allegedly. But it's something glaring because France don't want the military regime in this country, in this Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. They want civilian, because if there's a how do you call it, democratic regime there, that is going to benefit France. But if there is military regime, they are not going to benefit. So sometimes they fund opposition group. Understand? Sometimes they do it in a way of cyber attack. They attack the system of the country. Understand? Although sometimes these activities we are talking about, political intervention, they are controversial. They go against the international law of sovereignty. They go against it. But you will not see them physically. Look at the Boko Harams. Do you think that all the ammunition they are having, do you think that they have the money to buy it? Some people sponsored it. Listen, and some of the people that are sponsoring, they might be in Nigeria and they might be outside Nigeria. That is political intervention. That is disrupting the political activity of a country. Listen, and aside from that one, we have the last one is military action. Military action, that one is the ultimate instrument. Listen now, the ultimate instrument in achieving foreign policy. That is a punitive strike, invasion, occupation. But you send your military force. So, but that one, the military action occur when you were not able to achieve diplomatic negotiation, positive sanction did not work, negative sanction did not work, political intervention. So that is the last aspect. You now put military. What happened in Venezuela is the military action. What is happening in Iran currently is part of military action. What is America saying? They don't want Iran to have nuclear weapon. So they've done negotiation, they've done everything, it's not working. So they are using military now. That's what now. So these are the instruments of foreign policy. That is how the instrument you can use to achieve your foreign policy. That's it. So, any question before I proceed, please? I want to off the camera again. The phone is low. Any question before I proceed? Okay, the camera is off. Any question before I proceed?
Yeah, good. Okay.
Sorry, please, can you go back on the political intervention?
Thank you very much. Just ask question if you don't understand. I really love when you ask question. It means that you understand small, you don't understand the other. So we'll be able to adjust that. Now, so political intervention. That is, sometimes some country, they want to achieve their own foreign policy. But before they achieve their foreign policy, they intervene in the domestic affair of another country through propaganda or through funding of opposition or through covert operations. So propaganda in the sense that they can sponsor all the people you call your influential in your country. They can sponsor them to be tarnishing the names of your leader. Or they can sponsor the opposition. Why is it that sometimes you will see the opposition party? It has happened in Nigeria, so whereby the opposition, they went to UK, they came to UK, they went to America. They sent letters to it. I will not mention the political party, but it has happened in Nigeria where the opposition, when they were opposition, they went to the UK.
House.
Yeah, thank you very much. So you understand? So it has happened where they go abroad to go and seek support so that those abroad are going to give them money and disrupt the domestic politics. So you people at home in Nigeria, you now be saying your government is bad. So you'll be requesting for a change in government. Or sometimes they do covert operation in form of proxy war. They sponsor all the terrorists in your country to be disrupting the affairs of the country. Understand? So this thing that they are doing, legally, it is wrong according to international law. Understand? because international law prohibits the interference in the internal affairs of a sovereign country. But it is widely practiced. It is widely, like, there is political intervention secretly everywhere. Go and look at the Boko Harams. The Boko Haram you are seeing, if you look at them, you from the news, we know that they have weapons that even the soldiers, they don't even have it. They have intelligence information that the soldier, they don't have access to. Where did they get this from? Listen, so they are being sponsored by some people to disrupt, to tarnish the image, or to spoil the security of a country. There was an interview by Castina, the president of Castina. He was saying that those leaders, those terrorists, they know them, they know their father, they know their mother. But whenever they want to go and attack them, they are being ambushed. That they have information, they have intelligence information for their movement. If they do secret meeting, these terrorists, they have access to all the meeting they are doing. So political intervention will occur when, maybe I give an example now. This is not true. It's just an example. It's not true. It's just for an illustration. Let's say Nigeria and Cameroon, because we are brothers, we are brothers, and we have borders. We are sharing border. Let's say Cameroon president wants Nigeria to do something, and Nigerian president don't want to do it. Cameroon president can sponsor terrorist group in Nigeria, to disrupt the activity of Nigeria, so that if this president, they remove him when election comes and a new president comes in, maybe the new president that is going to come is going to support what he wants. And it happens. It happens in reality, which is not good in international law. It's forbidden in international law, but it happened in reality. So this is about that. So can we do you understand the person that asked the question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Ram. You're welcome. So I want you to I will skip on this thing I want to say now, but I just want you to note it down in your book. Go and study soft power and hard power. Soft power and hard power. And agency structure debate. I will skip that one. It's in my slide. I will skip that one. The question is not common on that one, but you can study that one. Now, we want to move to module 2. Module 2. We are done with module 1. Any question before we move to module 2, please? Any question before we move to module 2?
You say we should study soft power, hard power, and what?
Yeah, soft power and hard power, and agent structure debate.
So can you just give us a brief on the soft and hard power?
Soft and hard power.
Yes.
See, soft power is what you use to attract people to do business with you, to interact with you as a country. Listen, you can use the culture, you can use your entertainment industry, you can use diplomacy, you can use negotiation to attract people to come to your country or to transact with you. But the hard power is coercion and military sanction or coercion. That is, you force people to do what you want. You don't persuade them. Soft power, you persuade them via diplomacy or your culture or your values. But the hard power, you don't persuade them. You force them to do what you want them to do. What you want them to do for you. You force them to do it. So sometimes it can come through military actions, or it can come through negative sanctions. So that is just a brief of soft power and hard power. But you can just try to look at it in MIAD 809. I think, if I'm not wrong, is MIAD 809. There is a question on that soft power and hard power. I should explain that. So that's why I say you should just note it down.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So now we are moving to module 2 of this course. Module 2 of this course is theoretical perspective on foreign policy. Here we are looking at theory, and you need to know these four theory: realism, liberalism, social constructivism, and the prospect theory. The person that asked the past question, I want you to open past question for me. I want the person to open past question. I want the person to open past. You opened the past?
Yeah.
Okay. Now look at past question number 2.
Okay.
Question number 1.
Discuss realism as a theoretical framework in foreign policy analysis.
Thank you very much. Look at past question number 1. Question number 3.
Discuss liberalism in foreign policy analysis.
Okay. Look at past question number 3. This question. Question number 3. Past question number 3. Question number 3.
Explain social constructivism in foreign policy analysis.
Okay. Which means that this thing we want to discuss now, every year they take one of the topic. Is either they take liberalism, or they take realism, or they take social constructivism. Look at past question number 4. Question number 3.
Explain social constructivism as a theoretical framework in foreign policy analysis.
The next past question number 5. Question number 3.
Explain social constructivism in foreign policy analysis. Is there?
So, which means that if you check all the past questions every year, you cannot escape these questions. I am not a prophet, but I did take my time to study how ABU they do their things. But you cannot escape. So find a way to have a little knowledge about realism, liberalism, social constructivism, and prospect theory. Listen, now I will take it. When are we stopping, Seth? Sherry, when are we stopping?
9:30.
Kilo day.
I like that, Cherry. God bless you.
You'll be tired. That's a problem.
No, now you go run. No, we did.
Okay.
Yeah,
We're going to take it one after the other. So I will try my best to cover it. You are not seeing my face because I'm charging my phone. So now the first theory you are seeing on my slide is the realism.
But sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Please, if you are going to explain it, please can you go slowly, please?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll go slowly. You are making me to go back to when I'm teaching nursery students. I'll go slowly.
Sorry, sir.
No, okay. That was the time I was teaching nursery classes where you would dance with your students, you would sing with them. So I'll go. No, I'll go back. Don't worry. Now,
Sorry, Abdul, I'm lost. This is Oakley. Is this study? Is this module 2 study section 1?
yeah, module 2 study section 1.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, realism. We want to look at realism. Realism. One thing you need to understand with realism is that realism is the oldest forms of all the theory we will discuss. Listen, is the oldest forms of all the theory we will discuss. Listen, and whenever we talk about realism, there is one scholar, there are some scholars we need to talk about. We talk about Thomas Hobbes, Machiavelli, and Tutored. You can see their name, in case you don't know how to write the name, you can see the name on my slide. Tutored, Machiavelli, and Thomas Hobbes, and Hans Morgenthau. These 4 scholars, whenever we talk about realism, we talk about them because they have a contribution in the realism. So now, realism, they have 4 core assumptions. They have some assumption. They have 4 core assumptions. They are in the past question, they will ask you to talk about some assumption. They have 4 core assumptions. Let me just see if I don't know if I'm not seeing myself. Can you see me? Okay, I can see myself now. There are 4 core assumptions. Number 1 assumption is that the international system is anarchy. The international system is anarchy. And whenever we say the international system is anarchy, is that there is no central authority in international system. Let me explain it for you to understand. If the international system is anarchy, the domestic system is not anarchy. Now, in Nigeria, the reason why we say Nigeria domestic politics is not anarchy is because we have governor, we have president, we have police, we have judge, we have lawyers. But the international system, there is no central authority. We don't have a president that is a president of all the country. As we have a president in Nigeria that is a president of all the 36 states in the whole world, we don't have a president that is a president for all the countries in the world. That is why we say it is anarchy. No central authority. There is no world government, no sovereignty above the state capable of enforcing agreement or preventing the use of force. Understand? So, according to Thomas Hobbes, I mentioned the leader, the scholars. According to Thomas Hobbes, understand now, he says that the world we have like this, the world we have, the international system, understand, he call it a state of nature. A state of nature. A state of nature in the sense that a condition of permanent war can occur, which means that war can happen anytime. You understand? So, we call something Leviathan. The absence of a Leviathan is the Leviathan. Yeah, Leviathan. So, the absence of a Leviathan, a leader, above states, means that security is not guaranteed in the international system. All the countries know that security is not guaranteed. Understand? So, for countries to be secured, for them to be secure or protected, they have to do it through treaties. That is why you see Nigerian president going to Turkey and sign treaties on the counter-terrorism activities. Or you see him going to France, sign treaties on the terrorism activities. For you to be secured, you need to go through treaties, agreements, alliances. You need to align with powerful countries so that whenever you have problems, they can protect you. Listen, or through international organization, because in international organization, they have something we call collective security. An attack on one is an attack on all. That is the only way a country can be protected according to the realist. That's the first assumption. The international system is anarchy. That is, every state must ultimately rely on its power for its own survival or protection. That's number one. Then number two is power is central. To the realist, to them, power is number one thing we need to talk about when you talk about international relation, international system. Because the international system is anarchic already. So for you to be number one, for you to be respected, for other countries to see you as you are a girl, you need to have power. So power remains a currency of international politics. If we don't have that currency, you are not going to get the influence. You are not going to be respected in international politics. That is where Hans Mangentor comes in. Hans Mangentor, you can see the name in case you don't know how to write it. You can see in my slide, in that blue aspect, I put their name, the four people name. Hans Mangentor, he says that whenever we talk about power, we mean military power, economic power, diplomatic power. But he also emphasized that the military power is the ultimate foundation of all the power. Understand? That is, if you don't get power in the international system, you are not going to get the respect, the prestige you're supposed to have. For you to get the power, the only thing you need to do is to survive. Go low and look for that power. Military power, economic and diplomatic. This person should mute himself now. Unite, Ahmad. Unite to Ahmad. Understand? So, my phone is low, God. To the realist, the power remains the central topic. The power remains the central currency. Like you need the power to survive in the international system. So the national interest to the realist, the national interest of each country, listen, is being defined in terms of power they have. Listen, so if you have your power, you can get anything you want. That is why you see America, they can get anything they want in the international system. If they are not getting it, they put sanction. They wanted to force China to comply to them. China refused. What they did, they put tariff on China, which is economic power. But China also retaliated by putting the same sanction on them also. Understand? The third assumption of the realists is that they believe that the state are rational actors. The state are rational actors. Because the realists assume that state, whenever we say state, we need countries. Understand? The country calculate the cost and benefit of anything they want to do. They calculate to see that, okay, they want to do something, is it favorable to them or not? If it's favorable, they will do it. If it's not favorable, they are not going to do it. Which means that state only form alliance in the anarchical international system. They only form alliance when it favors them. Whenever it doesn't favor them, they shift their alliance. It's like you are dating one lady, and that lady, because she's pretty today, you are with her. She's not pretty tomorrow, you shift. Or she maltreated you, you shift to another person. That is, they know how they shift alliance based on their own faculty of thinking. The rationality of states make the state, to predict. It makes the state to predict or to make decision. To predict. Yeah, it makes the state to predict how they react or how others react and how they also make decision. So now, for instance, now, if you know a state interest, if you know a country national interest, maybe you are working as an ambassador, you know that you want to go and negotiate with a country. If you know their national interest and their capability, it is easier for you to predict how they are going to negotiate with you or how they are going to behave while you are at a meeting. So that is number 3. The number 4, you can see from my slide, we say self-help. The number 4 assumption is that self-help, which means that since we are living in an anarchical international system, since there is no world government, now there is what we call survival of the fittest. You need to help yourself. Nobody is going to help you. Self-help, that is, countries in the world help themselves. Let me give you an example now. When Maduro was in Venezuela president, when he was attacked, did you see any country attacking America? No country attacked America. No country. They left Venezuela on their own. Now, as you are seeing Palestine being attacked every day by Israel, did you see any country attacking Palestine? As you are seeing Iran being attacked in 2026, did you see any country attacking Israel? No. Which means that to the realist in the international system, you need to help yourself. Everyone help those who help themselves. Understand that? You cannot, you see, both Iran, both Venezuela, both Russia, both all the countries, they have allies. But the international system are saying that you cannot fully rely on your allies. You cannot rely on them because your allies, they have their own interests. Part of the allies of Iran currently is China and Russia. But you will not see Russia and Iran bombarding Israel because of Iran. Because they also have their own interests, so you cannot rely on them. And also, you cannot rely on the international law. Because if the international law is functioning, as Donald Trump went to Venezuela to bombard the president of Venezuela, they should have stopped him. They should have sanctioned Donald Trump. So, to the realist, you cannot rely on the international law or international organization. Because those international organizations you are seeing, they are instruments of the state that dominate the world. Which means that it won't be easy. Like yesterday or day before yesterday, we were talking about the P5 countries. Which means that the international organization, they are being manipulated by the P5 countries. And there are 5. What are the P5 countries? We discussed about it yesterday or day before yesterday. What are the P5 countries?
The UK, the US, the France, the Russia.
You mentioned 4.
UK, US, France, Russia, and China.
China. Thank you very much. So, to the realists, they believe that you need to help themselves because you cannot count on UN. You cannot count on World Trade Organization. You cannot count on any international organization. You cannot count on them because they are instruments that the dominant country, the powerful country, use to manipulate the small countries. Listen, these are the 4 assumptions of the how do you call the realists. The person that said I should go small. Hope I'm going small. Hope I'm not too fast. I just want to be sure I'm
Yes, yeah. Okay, sir. We are okay. Thank you.
no. So whenever you talk about realists, you need to list these 4 assumptions of the realist. Listen. Now we'll proceed to the next theory. So I'm just trying to take the most important aspect, but before I go there, you just need to look at the prescription of the realist. So we already know their assumption, that's their own belief, the belief of the realist, but they have some prescription also. And number 1 prescription they have is that the national interest of all the country is being defined by the power the country have. That is power, national interest define the power, it's being defined by the power the country have. So number two prescription of the realist is that state must prepare for war, even in peacetime, to keep the peace. That is why we have a scholar that says that if you want peace, you must go for war. I don't know how he says that word. There is a popular saying by this scholar. He said, if you want peace, you go for war or something like that. I'll forget that saying. But to the realist, you say that you must...
For there to be peace, you must war to Georgia.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a war to Georgia. Understand? That's a statement. So in essence, to the realist, you must always prepare for war, even in peacetime, to keep the peace that you have. The peace you have to keep it, you must go for war. You must prepare for war, rather. Understand? And number 3 prescription they make is that balance of power. Balance of power. Understand? So that is, for peace to occur in the international system, power must not be concentrated in one single country. There must be multipolarism, not unipolarity, or not bipolarity. We discussed that one yesterday. So power must not be concentrated in one country. If it's concentrated in one country, it's going to override any other country. Listen. And also, they also make reference to raison d'etat, is a French word, reason of state. Is a French word, raison d'etat, it means reason of state. That is, the country, the leaders in the country, understand now, they can lie, they can cheat, or they can do anything so as to make sure that the country survive in the anarchical international system. Listen, so country should do anything. Country can lie that, okay, they want to come and help another country, but at the second mission, maybe they want to come and take the crude oil or the gold or the mineral resources in the country. So far as they are surviving and they are telling people in the world that they are helping another country, it's fine. Do anything you can do to survive. Listen, so these are the prescriptions. Now, we proceed to the next theory. If you don't understand realism, just let me know before we dwell into liberalism.
Again, or realism, please.
What do you say?
Could you please come again on realism, please?
Thank you very much. I love that. Love that. Now, realism. You see, when you say realism, one thing you need to say, one thing you need to understand is that to them, they believe that the state is the primary actors in the international system. They don't trust all this international organization. They believe on the state. And whenever we say the state, we say the country. And they have 4 assumptions. That is, they believe in 4 things. Number 1 thing they believe on is the international system. They say the international system is anarchy. If you don't understand anarchy in essence, they believe that there is no central government in the international system. No world government. Understand? So far as there is no world government, each country are left to defend themselves in a cruel world. I gave the example, Palestine have been attacked by Israel, and no one is defending Palestine. No one is supporting Palestine. Listen, Iran is being attacked. Also, no one is supporting Iran. Listen, so the international system is anarchic, which means no central government is there to make order. Number 2 belief is that power is a central currency in the international system. If you don't get power in the international system, you are not going to get the respect you need. So, for you to be able to achieve your national interest in the international system as a country, you need to have power. If you don't have power, it's going to be difficult to achieve your national interest. And whenever we talk about the power, we are making reference to the economic power, economic power, military power, and also the diplomatic power. You need to have this. If you don't have, it's going to be a problem for you to be respected or have influence in the international system. And the 3rd one is that the states, they are the rational actors in the international system. That is, I'll try to explain that. That is, the states, they are the ones that make decisions based on how they perceive the international system. Let me give you an example now. Russia and Ukraine, they are fighting at the moment. And the only reason, who can tell me the reason why Russia and Ukraine are fighting? Why Russia and Ukraine are fighting?
They want to set
For too many
military
reasons.
base. They want
And
to
these
set,
2 reasons.
the US want to set,
Comrade, go ahead.
the US want to set a military base in Ukraine.
In Ukraine.
So
That's
The
not
Russian.
okay. Any other reason? Another reason?
So Russia want to invade and what is that word? It want to capture some part of Ukraine into its territory, and Ukraine say lie, I no go agree.
Okay. Now let me explain now. Territorial. Somebody said territorial control in the comment section. Let me explain something now. You see, Russia and Ukraine, they were part of the Soviet Union before Soviet Union was disrupted. So Russia still believes that Ukraine is still part of its territory. So if Ukraine want to join NATO, it's going to be a problem on them. So to them, if Ukraine join NATO and America set a military base there, it become danger for Russia, because Russia will not want to see America, which is his enemy, will not to see him as its neighbor. You understand? So, which means that if Ukraine president decided to bombard Ukraine, is trying to do a way that Ukraine is going to renounce its decision by saying that, okay, we are no more joining NATO, we are staying with our brother, which is Russia. Listen, during the war, Iran and Israel, during the war, you will notice that Iran has been bombarding Dubai, Bahrain, Egypt, and all the countries that are in the Middle East. Iran has been bombarding them. Why? Because America has its base in all these countries. So Iran sees them as enemy, because from each country, they can be bombarding Iran. So before they bombard Iran, Iran started bombarding them to tell them that, do not allow America to use your country to attack me. So the third assumption of these realists is that states are rational actors. They can take decision when they see problem, when they see threats. When they see threat, they take decision based on that. When they see opportunity, they take decision based on that one. Understand? So to them, the international organization, they are not powerful. The international organization or institutions, they are not powerful when it comes to international system. But the state, they are the powerful element in international international politics. That's number 4. Number 3. Number 4 is that self-help principle. That is, everyone help those who help themselves. As a country, nobody is going to come to your aid. You need to help yourself. That is what the 4th principle is saying. That is, the world is anarchic. You should not, to the 4th principle, they say that do not depend on this international organization. Because this international organization, they are instruments of all these big nations, all these powerful nations. Because the powerful nations use them to manipulate the small countries. So do not depend on them. Find a way to help yourself the way you can help yourself. And do not depend on your allies, because the interest of your allies can shift. I gave the example of Iran. Iran is being bombarded today, but Iran has Russia and China as allies. But they are not helping Iran during this war, which means that their interest might be different from your interest. Every country has their own interest. Understand that? So the person that asked me to re-explain it, I hope you get it.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. So we are going to do one last theory, and then we are going to call it a day for today. So it's already 8:41 here. The last theory we are going to do today is liberalism. Liberalism. From the word liberalism. So the liberalism. Let me just on my camera again. Let me just on my camera. Liberalism on its own, it's totally different from they believe it's totally different from the idealists. Understand? So if realist sees the world as anarchic, realist liberal on their own, they sees the world as it could be a platform for cooperation. To the realists, they don't believe in cooperation. But the liberal, they say, we can still talk together. Even though it is anarchic in nature, we can still talk together. Listen. So liberalism is a theory of good governance. A theory of good governance within states and of cooperation between them. That is, it is encouraging countries to be good and cooperate among themselves.
Theory of good governance
Is a theory of good governance within states. That is, in your country should be good to your people. Understand? And also encourage countries to do cooperation between themselves. And whenever we talk about liberalism, we talk about some scholars. Understand? You can see from my slide, we talk about Immanuel Kant, Keown, Wilson, and Nine. You can see the name in case you don't know how to write the name. You can see from the slide. Now, they also have 4 assumptions. You can see the 4 assumptions from the slide. They also have 4 assumptions. The number 1 assumption is that non-state actors are important. Non-state actors are important. You will notice that the realists, they say that state actors are important. But this one, they are saying that no. The non-state actors, they are important, which is opposite of the realist. Understand now? The realists, I repeat it, they insist that states are the only actors that matters. But the liberal, they recognize that international governmental organization like the United Nations, the World Trade Organization, International Monetary Fund, the NGOs, the Amnesty Internationals, the Médecins Sans Frontières, all these organizations, they are genuine actors in international politics. Because these actors we are talking about, they have their own agenda, their own capability, and their own ability to shape the outcome of decision in the international system. If you look at MIAD 809, where we talk about, I think we talk about state actors and non-state actors. So you will notice that the non-state actors also have their own value. That is their own number 1 assumption of the liberal. The second assumption of the liberal is that state is not a unitary actor. The state is not a unitary actor. Understand? Because the liberal on their own, they reject the postulation that of the realists that the state is a single unified actor in the international system. They reject that idea of the liberal, of the realist. Now, so to the liberal, state is an arena in which many different actors compete. Listen, to the liberal, they believe that it's like a platform where different actors compete. We have political parties are there. We have interest group. We have cooperation, multinational cooperation, societal organization, and many organizations, and the political parties, they are there. Listen, now. So to them, it is not only the government. It's not only the government. Many things influence foreign policy. It's not only the government. Listen, to the liberal. Listen, so foreign policy to them always emerge, listen, from the coalition or the compromise among these different competing actors in the country, not only the state. Listen, not only the state. It's like you are saying that the realists are saying that the state have the final say in the international system, but the liberal are saying no, not only the state. Not only the state has the final say. Many actors, many competing actors in the country also influence. Look at Very Dark Man. Very Dark Man is an individual, but he has a voice. He has a voice that can change some decision of the government. Listen, we have interest group. we have some companies that can change Nigerian foreign policy decisions, multinational corporations. So that is what this second one is saying. State is not a unitary actor. Number three is that rationality is fragmented and imperfect. Rationality is fragmented and imperfect. That is to say, you see, because the state we have is fragmented, is divided, and so now. The state is divided because when you say the state, when you say the government, we are not talking about the president only. We are talking about many people, many offices. So because the state is fragmented, rational decision making is usually difficult. Because different agency or offices or parastatal or ministry pursue different objectives. So to them, political leaders must balance the demand of multiple parastatals or agencies. Which makes that sometimes if a leader wants to take a decision, he's not taking the decision alone. He has to consult many offices, the parastatals or agencies. So let me check. I want to check something. So the realists, you will notice that they said the realists say that states are rational actors. So they are trying to portray that even though they are rational actors, but they don't take decision on their own. They have many agencies that influence this decision they are taking. So the last one is a broad agenda, that is, you see, the liberal on their own. The liberal on their own, they go against the idea of the realists, because realists they realists believe on the power politics. They really believe on power politics. Everything has to be based on power. But the liberal reject that ideology, that everything is not based on power. Everything is not based on power. But for liberal, trade policy, climate change, global health, human rights, migration, they are important aspects that make countries to negotiate among themselves. Yes, sir. So to them, although they also have the notion that the military also is important, but they are not important as what we mentioned. Yes, sir. So because look at, for instance, now, HIV. People die of HIV every day. So which means that HIV kills even more than war. So why not finding a way to collaborate together and find solution to HIV? Why is it that we are focusing on war anytime? So to them, to the realists, we should not focus on the power aspect. We should focus on things that are collectively affecting the international system. And things that collectively affect the international system. We have climate change issues. We have human rights issues. We have migration issues. We have global health issues. Listen, so to the how do you call it? To the liberal, to the realists, they are always on the high politics aspect. It's an high policy, but the realists, the liberal, they are on the low politics aspect. Listen, liberal, low politics, realist, high politics. High politics because they focus on the military and security. The realists, they focus on military and security, power. That's why we call them the high politics aspect. But the liberal, they focus on low politics. They focus on low politics. So the things that not that coming with power, but that affect us globally. So we mentioned 3 effects of liberal on foreign policy. I want to check my phone again. 3 effects of liberal on foreign policy. 3 effects of liberal on foreign policy. 3 effects of liberal on foreign policy. Number one, that is where we are going to solve. Number one effect, the liberal zone of peace. You can check it from my slide, liberal zone of peace. Liberal zone of peace. To them, to the liberal, country, they are democratic in nature. That is, any country that they are doing democracy in their country, they are less likely to fight each other. Understand? So, if a country are doing democracy, if they are doing democracy, do not, because in the principle of democracy, understand, they do not preach war. Understand? They do not preach war when it comes to democracy. So, to the liberal, any country that is doing democracy are less likely to go to war.
Unfortunately, the case is different today.
No, but they have a point. They have a point because you will not see Nigeria and any other country in Africa that are doing democracy going to war with each other. If you see war in the international system now, you can say Iran and Israel going to war. You ask, is Iran a democratic country? I don't know if is Iran a democratic country. No. So they have a point because they believe that if you do business, and the business, we call the business democracy, if you do democracy together, you are less likely to go because democracy preach cooperation. Democracy preach cooperation. It preach peace, which we call the liberal zone of peace. So the concept of democracy is that we should preach peace. So if you are preaching peace, you will not want to venture into war, according to them. That is the point they have. Because with democracy, countries share a norms, and the norms is a non-violent conflict resolution. That is, whenever you have problem, you should resolve it without violence. You should resolve it without violence. And in case you are not able to resolve it, you call in international organizations, international institutions to resolve it for you without violence. Number two effect of this liberalism on foreign policy is the imprudent aggressiveness. So now, imprudent aggressiveness, that is where the person that say it is the what we are having now is different. That is where the imprudent aggressiveness comes in, which means that liberal democracy, countries that are liberal, that practice democracy, they are peaceful towards each other, but they can be extraordinarily aggressive towards states that they identify as authoritarian. That is why you see America being democratic country attacking Iran that is authoritarian. I don't know the person that said that's a different case we are having currently now. This is where the liberal talks now.
I get that. Thank you.
So they say that if you are doing democracy, it is less likely you do war, but you can attack any other country that is not doing that democracy. So whenever the liberal, they see that a country is authoritarian, unjust, or threatening, they attack that country aggressively. Understand? So the moral behind this one is that democracy, any country that do democracy is good country. Any country that do authoritarian system is a bad government. So it has happened on several occasions. So the case of Saddam Hussein is an example. In Iraq case is an example. The case you are seeing in Iran is an example.
But sir, there's like a contrary situation.
Okay.
Still within the international system. And I think what motivates the tolerance among other nations that are not practicing democracy by the democratic superpowers is maybe availability of resources. If you look at countries like Qatar and UAE, they are all not practicing democracy. Hello, are you there?
Yeah, we are with you.
And they are not practicing democracy, but they are rubbing shoulders with US, UK, China, and all of that. So maybe it's because they have abundant natural resources, and they also control some part of the global trade and power, especially because they have oil.
Yeah, you are right, sir. You are right. So, on what you said now, you see, that is where the how do you call it? The notion comes that you should not trust these international institutions. Listen, when you favor their interest, you are a friend to them. Once you don't favor it, you are not a friend to them. If what Israel is doing to maybe Palestine, to Iran, is another country that is doing it, they will have attacked that country. Do you understand? They will have attacked that country. Today, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, they are not being attacked because these powerful nations or these powerful countries benefit from them. They benefit from them economically in strategic location, because America has a military base in these countries also, and economically they benefit from them. So they are not being attacked. Even they are being protected, because if anything happens to them, their interest is being jeopardized in that zone. So you have a point there. Thank you very much for your contribution on that. And so the third effect of this liberalism on foreign.
I'm not seeing the slide.
You are not seeing the slide?
Yes, Abi, am I the only one?
No, we can't see the slide.
Oh, nobody's talking. Let me share the slide. But it's showing here. Okay, it has stopped. Okay, let me share it. I shared the document with you. I think you have it in your group there. Can you see it now? I'm sharing it now.
I think it's still loading. Yes, it's coming up.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So from the slide, if you just zoom the slide, you will see the effect. We talk about a liberal zone of peace, where we say that when you do democracy with them, they leave you. You are less likely to go into war with them. But the second one is imprudence, aggressiveness. If you don't do democracy, they can aggressively attack you when they see you as authoritative or unjust or threatening. And the third one is supine compliance. Supine compliance and isolation. Supine or supine compliance or isolation. Uh-huh. So the third one, which is a supine how do you call it? Supine compliance, which is with this one, the democratic public grow weary of military commitment. Understand? So the one we
say
are
it again.
I mean the democratic publics grow weary of military commitment, especially when they are costly or protracted. So what we are trying to extend is that, see, I know we all know about the Hotel Rwanda cases, Rwanda genocide of 1994. Understand? So all the Holocaust during the World War. We've learned from it already that it is sometimes sometimes costly. Understand? It's sometimes costly to go into war. But at the same time, we need to find a way to form our alliance. There is no way we can escape war. To them, we cannot escape war already. We cannot escape war. Understand? We cannot isolate ourselves away from war. That is, we cannot do as if that war does not exist in international system. But there are two things we need to put into consideration. We should put it that war can occur, but at the same time, we can curb that war through support from allies, through alliances. That is why one of the principles of the United Nations is collective security. Listen, and also, whenever one person is being attacked, or whenever a country is being attacked, all other nations will see that country that is attacking the aggressor as an enemy, so that we should be able to show response to defend that country that is being attacked. In Rwanda in 1994, there was genocide there, but they were not able to, the peacekeeping mission were not able to come in to save them. So a lot of people they lost their life easily because there was an attack there, and response to stop the attack did not come in times. So which makes people to lose their lives. So to them, you need to understand that there is war, but at the same time form alliance. So in case there is war, you are going to have a support from people to defend you. So this is where I'm going to stop. I'm a bit tired. I'm a bit hungry, not tired. I'm hungry. I'm going to stop here.